Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmadu wa salli ala Rasul Kareem. Last week we finished a whole, basically it's halfway through the book. The sections on earning livelihood, the benefits, so forth, the fada'il, the importance of it, all the arguments against it. Then in the end of it he mentioned something interesting, which is from the Salaf, from the Tabi'een, who mentioned about seeking, traveling the land. Ad-darbu fil ard mentioned in the Quran. And darbu fil ard is usually used in the context of going out, setting out in the land like trade caravans and going to seek your rizq in different lands. But then the Tabi'een, and they said that this referred to the seeking of knowledge, because in their generation, the Tabi'een, Tabi'een, and afterwards in those 2 centuries, there were people traveling tens of thousands of kilometers by foot and whatever means that the conveyance they had for collecting hadith, for seeking knowledge, for studying. There was no, like if you look at all the names of these Imams, like Sijistani, which is on border of, most likely it falls on the in Balochistan, either in the Pakistan side or Iran side, that region, or Imam Bukhari from Bukhara, and Imam al-Harwi, and you look at all the places where they are, al-Marwazi from Marwa, and from Persia and Khurasan, and on and on. So the Muslims are coming from they're traveling tens of thousands of kilometers. If you add up all their journeys, it's tens of thousands of kilometers in their lifetime for only one thing, is seeking the knowledge of Deen. And they didn't do this for 6 months course or some of that. Some of them in like a quarter of a century. Like Imam Ahmad, 25 years of his life is seeking knowledge. He did not give fatwa or teach till the age of 40. Right? So 25, didn't get married, didn't give a livelihood till the age of 40. So it started from his teenage years and spent a quarter of a century perfecting his tools of knowledge, alat wa ilm, the tools of knowledge, meaning the skills of knowledge. So the investment, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill their graves with nur. We can never repay them for their debt, what they've done, and we benefited from. So these people, when we read, so then the chapter changes now. So far the last 70 pages is talking about earning livelihood. Now it's changed to the obligatoriness, fardiyatu talab al-ilm, which is interesting. It's like 4 or 5 chapters in the middle that cannot be ignored. And there's a tafsir of even the ayat al-Quran of Jum'ah, وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ, that after when you finish your Jum'ah, go out and seek the fadl of Allah. All of us, we translated, go seek dunya. Go after. And this is, go seek halal rizq, kasb halal. But then there is an interpretation from Sahaba that go seek knowledge of Deen. I think it's Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, on top of my head, I can't remember. But right from the early Muslims, they understood in a more broader sense the fadl of Allah and seeking and setting out in the land. If you were to say that, and they mentioned last week, just mentioned, therefore the comparison of this seeking earning with the seeking of knowledge is a proof that the principle, the quest for knowledge is obligatory, is higher in rank than the other. That seeking rizq is something you're rewarded for, it's fard in certain circumstances to go out and set. He's saying, but then seeking knowledge is even higher than that, and he's going to give the argumentation for that. The explanation of the obligatoriness of the quest for knowledge in the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, the quest for knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. Talab al-ilm faridatun ala kulli Muslim, is that the meaning refers to the knowledge of actual circumstances, ilm al-hal. So within ilm, there's a specific ilm called ilm al-hal, which in accordance with the saying, the best knowledge is knowledge of actual circumstances, and the best vocation is preservation of wealth. Afdal al-ilm, ilm al-hal, wa afdal al-amal, hifz al-mal. Right? That meaning that if you have money, to preserve that money, don't waste it. Half of your livelihood, there's accountants here, they can explain to you. There's a balance sheet, there's a thing, expenditure and income. Right? So one way to increase the amount of wealth that you have is to reduce your expenditure. Not to the point of that you're stingy, but to not waste. Right? So the best, he has mentioned that from this riwayah, that the best amal or work is the preservation of wealth. And then he mentions in the hadith, and before that, the best knowledge is the knowledge of hal, which we'll explain in here. The explanation of this is that whatever a person requires at the actual circumstance in order to discharge what is required of him is personally compensated, fardu ayn on him. If something you have to do, for example, zakat becomes fard on you, the knowledge of doing zakat, fulfilling the zakat properly, discharging it properly is now fard upon you. It's not just that like if something has become fard on you, then the knowledge of that has also become fard. This is called ilm al-hal, the ilm of the state. If he desires to trade, then he's obliged to learn that which he will be safeguard himself from riba, invalid contracts, uqud al-fasida. If he owns property, then he's obliged to learn zakat, meaning he's got mal, savings, due on the top of his property so that he can pay it. If like for example, a boy is 15 years old. A 15-year-old boy in Islam is an adult, right? If he's got money, his zakat, that's his responsibility to know, not his parents. Parents have done their job. Baligh, he's mukallaf himself. See, we made this is my opinion, but like we make we have our own parameters that we operating on. But in Islam's boy that reaches, not even 15 is the maximum according to the Hijri calendar, which is 14 years and 7 months. So you're automatically the maximum that a person become baligh, all right, age is 14 years and 7 months. If I remember correctly, the 14 and 7 months. After that is automatically baligh, right? If the signs of bulugh are not there. Some become baligh when they're 12. I have a Lebanese friend, he was worried about his son. He goes, he was worried. He goes, he hasn't had a wet dream, at the age of 12. I said, relax, man. Like he will come, inshallah. Don't worry. He was worried. His oldest son. He's worried about his. Mashallah, he guys become baligh very early, but he's 12. Some become baligh much younger. We know that there's two Sahaba, father and son. The difference between father and son age was 12 years. Understand? His father got married at the age of 12. I've seen that with my own eyes in the village in Pakistan. As a child, I saw my own 12-year-old. He was playing with us one day. He's married next week. And he's married. He's 12 years old. He was married. He's a married man. So it happens. The boys are looking. They're probably they're probably thinking how, But maybe for you guys. But and we wouldn't know when we were 12. We didn't know what was going on either, let alone to take care of a family. But anyway, so so if they're mukallaf, they reach that. They need to know that it's responsibility in them to know zakat. Now, once they become baligh, the responsibility is lifted from the parents. That they are mukallaf. The parents have done their job, taught them Quran, Salat, and so forth. So Shaykh Zakariyya Rahimahullah, I went through his book before this, Fadl al-Tijarat. He said that the saddest day of his life, in our beauty, his autobiography, my father at the age of 13 sat me in front of him, and he said that you're like a chain in my legs. Because of you, I couldn't go. Because of his tarbiyah, because I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go to my teachers like that. He said, now, because I'll leave you to you. Like formal, actually was addressed his son. And he said it was the saddest day of his life that his father handed his responsibility of his life to him. So this is something, the problem is like this, the way our education system is, that we have locked, they'll be baligh, imagine if they're in year 7 or year 8, they're baligh. For the next 5 years, they'll be treated like a child, right? One of the problems we have in maktabs here, and this is why in one of the South African systems they don't teach maktab for after year 7, 8. Because the problem with a lot of the maktabs I teach in a few places, not just here in UMMA, you have basically young adults. Technically, they're adults according to Islam, but they get away with misbehavior that in the maktab, right? I'm talking about the older students, not the younger ones that are here, right? It's not about you guys. You guys are good. But I'm talking about 15, 16-year-olds, that they are misbehaving with the teacher and showing attitude, which is unacceptable in Islam, from a halal point of view. It's unacceptable from a tarbiyah point, and we treat them like children. But if they were to behave like that outside in the street, like as an adult to adult, nowhere in the world. You go to anywhere in the Muslim world, right? Old, like a traditional. This will not be. It will not even 1 minute will not be tolerated. I remember once here in Jummah, and I'm not saying this is a prescription for you. Once in Jummah, me and my brother, we laughed. We were 9 years old or something. It's 1988, 89. We laughed during Jummah Salat, and then after, and there's one saf of it. It was a small mosque, and there's only a few people here. And my father, he gave the Jummah, and he came down, and then we laughed. And then after Salat, someone turned around, gave me and my brother a slap, and then my father, he just looked. After Salat, he came and he said, "Why'd you laugh for?" There was no why he hit my son or something like that. These are the good old days, But anyway, we learned our lesson, alhamdulillah, that you don't laugh during Salat. But So this starts when a person, like if a child, quote unquote, a child, is 15 years old, right? He's 14 years and 7 months. He's got money. Zakat is now the clock starts ticking in the Hanafi mazhab. In the other madhahib, zakat is to be paid even if he's a child as well, before he's baligh. And this is knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained the endurance of the law Sharia until the day of resurrection, and the endurance of the law among the people is by learning at-ta'allum and teaching at-ta'aleem. And so both learning and teaching are made obligatory. We have established this meaning in explaining the obligatoriness of earning. The proof of this meaning is that what has been narrated, that the Prophet ﷺ condemned those who do not teach and those who do not learn, for knowledge will pass away because of them. Right? He said, indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not take away knowledge suddenly by wresting it from the heart, but He takes it away by the scholars, the ulama. So if there's ulama, it's not the books. If the ulama, they die, and you haven't replaced those ulama, with other ulama, you haven't invested as a community, then that knowledge will die. Many people will not know what to do with the books. That's why, like, I had a class now with a teacher, and he has a teach class, the one that did the Mufti course through. So he's not main teacher. So here's a class now. The whole class is all graduates of Mufti class. That class he's teaching for free. But why is it there's alim in England is sitting giving an hour and a half lesson, preparing the lesson, giving for free? It's not paid for it. And ulama from all over the world are studying. He's giving time. And then he's got a class tomorrow night, their time, and then our Monday morning, another class on fiqh, advanced level classes, for free. Because there's a sense of amana, because if we don't teach it, don't pass it on, it'll die with him. Whatever he knows, it will die with him. And then we're going to try to reinvent the wheel. Someone is going to invest so much time into learning the 300-400 terminologies that he's teaching us at the moment in a certain science of hadith. So so when the scholars have been taken away, the people will appoint the leaders, will appoint as leaders the ignorant. And so they will give decisions without knowledge, deluding themselves and deluding others. And we see that happening gradually. Like, we're going through a phase where the investment in studying is so less that what people call, Imam Suyuti rahimahullah said, what's an alim in the people's eyes? Alim in the people's eyes is someone who stands on the mimbar. 400 years ago he said this. People think an alim is someone who gives a speech. And if he gives a good speech, then he's a good alim. Right? And that's not the case. He said in the general public's perception is this. But it's a whole set of skills that he's invested in. So he said what will happen is, so we're seeing that now. People are climbing. One of the signs of Qiyam is young people will climb the mimbars to give speeches. And then they will see, and you see, like, you might not be aware of it, but there are people that you might see them and you might consider them alims, but they're not ulama. They never studied formally and so forth, but the average person, and the appearance that they're giving is of a sheikh. They're selecting certain terminologies of sheikhs and they're throwing it out there. And they have no formal, if you look at their resume, like of actual study, how much actual formal study is done, it's like almost nil, or very minimal short courses. But they lean into the thing that they lean. First you become an ustaz, then you become a sheikh, then you become mufti. These are the steps in titles anyway. And that which support this interpretation totally is a statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if one of the polytheists asks you for protection, then protect him, so that he can hear the word of Allah. In this verse, there is indication that teaching an unbeliever, a kafir, is obligatory if he requests it. Hence, the teaching of a believer is of a greater imperative. That is awla, is more important. And this is the last paragraph. The elucidation of our statement, it is the most imperative of the obligation, akidul fara'id, is that if a person was to apply his whole lifetime to learning and teaching, he would have totally obligated in doing both. That if he was to apply all his lifetime to prayer and fasting, he would only be a nafil in some of his prayers and fasting. And there is no doubt that discharging the obligatory fard is higher in rank than discharging the nafil. That if someone is to dedicate themselves to ilm, he's dedicating himself to a fard act. If someone is to dedicate themselves to fasting and prayers, he's dedicating himself to a nafil act. Because that's the comparison. So hence the reward for this, and this will not be something, and this is like, the rewards are so much for ilm. When students come from madrasa, and I read Targhib wa Tarhib, it's a hadith collection, and the first section is about 100 hadiths on ilm. Even Hayat al-Sahab is 100 pages roughly on ilm that students are read to, and go through all this fadal and reward. There's too much like on offer, like because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, indeed I was sent as a techer. Inni bu'astu mu'allim, I was sent as a teacher, as an educator. So if he's made that laqab for himself, then it must be something to it. But it cannot happen haphazardly. It takes a lot of time and investment into those people. Like may Allah reward our teachers, the time that sabr they make, and how long the relationship is with your teachers. Like it's lifelong. And you're studying with your teachers continuously. It doesn't stop. Like I hope this class with my teacher continues forever. As long as we're alive, that we continue this class with him. But it's like a constant improvement, constant upskilling, professional development. That's the new buzzwords, I guess, for education. So we have to invest, and it's not a no price is high enough for this. The premium on this is so high that our best of this ummah, the most intelligent and the best of this ummah, exhausted their energies in this. They went through hunger and thirst for this. I mean, their lives are. There's a whole book, Shaykh Abu Fattah Abu Ghudda, rahmahullah, great Syrian alim, wrote Safhat min Sabr al-Ulama. The pages from these Sabr al-Ulama. There's another book that he wrote, al-Ulama al-Uzzab, the bachelor ulama, the ones who never got married. For ilm. Right? Like there's famous ones, and they never, in their whole life, because their dedication to ilm was so much, they never got invested in to get a family. Not because they were avoiding a sunnah of marriage, because they were so attentive to that they felt that they couldn't fulfill the right of a wife while they gave. One of the alims, he mentioned that his dedication, I'll just finish off with this, his wife, she said these books of his are more heavier, more harsher, more, how would you say, difficult to bear than if he was to marry another wife. His dedication to these books are so much that these are more than his attentiveness to the books, and how much he's invested in these books and the time that he gives is more harder for me to bear than even if they have another wife. So it's a full absorption in the ilm. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding. Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Muhammad's colleague, the one who wrote this, the matan of this book, he said about Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayhi, Imam Hanifa's other student, chief student. He said that when he was, someone came to ask a masala in his house of Hajj about Rami, about Jamarat, and the masala was discussed and so forth, and he was dying, and he's discussing a fiqh masala on his deathbed, and as he goes, I came at the house, I heard a shout. I mean, he died, the Imam died, within this time. So till his last breath,